Good morning, everyone. The ranter is going to get himself into his latest diatribe on politics. Some of it's going to be structured, some of it's going to be free-formed, and it's all about the last couple of days' worth of nonsense and meltdown, pretty much. Um, like I said in the last video, there is so much material that has came and went that is worth exploring and examining. And clearly some of the stuff I didn't get to the last time around. So just brief mentions of certain things like Mike Pompeo, who went on air and said he just had just a report of the Ukrainian call, and he didn't really hear everything about it until he read it up, and then we find out, oh, he was actually in on the call. So Mikey is another Trump liar. So again, Mike Pompeo was another supposed to be one of these last serious people in the Trump administration. One of the last adults. And despite the fact that he is one of these uber partisans who was so gleeful in trying to get Hillary Clinton in front of their own congressional hearings back in the day, even during that one where she spent 11 hours, um, you know, testifying for them, and they couldn't get anything they wanted out of her because there was nothing to get. But, be that as it may. Yeah, and then speaking of, sort of a side thing on that, speaking of him in Congress and him thinking that anybody who doesn't come and testify when they are called has problems, Mikey Pompeo doesn't seem to want to testify before Congress. First couching it is saying that scheduling, for appearance of him or anyone in the State Department by October 4th and producing documents is just not feasible. But then he went along to saying that he will not bow down to any intimidation from the Congress. Really, the Congress is being bullies. He's bullying poor little Pompeo. Oh, that's so sad. But that was some of the things that were neglected to mention. Maybe he didn't want to go testify because then he'd have to explain why he lied on camera to the American people. Now, I know these people don't give a shit about the American people, but still, maybe there's some a little segment of personal pride left in anyone that works in the Trump administration. Maybe a little bit. I don't know. Well, it doesn't seem like it. During yesterday, when you saw Trump on the lawn flailing, asking any foreign power that he either has a trade issue with or has their lifeline in his hand due to military and financial aid, to go and investigate the Bidens, because now he is called on camera on the lawn for China to investigate the Bidens. And in defending this blatant, just in-your-face plea for foreign powers to come and save him, I don't know, guys. When you watch that and you see him saying this shit, saying that that the Bidens, or at least Joe Biden, was responsible for the trade problems that we have with China. What? I mean, are we now going to link Biden to? Well, let's see. Biden must have killed Kennedy. Biden was part of Iran-Contra. Biden didn't fix the levees in New Orleans. Because we know it was Obama's fault for Katrina, even though he wasn't president at the time, but certain people think he was, or Obama's time machine was at work again, because they seem to blame things on Obama back in the day for stuff that was way before he was president or knew his name. So there's that. That now he's beseeching China to come and save him. The foreign minister from China says, we're kind of replied to it, saying that we trust that Americans can handle their own business and we're not going to get involved in meddling with your affairs. Oh, so I guess Trump is going to have to flail his hands again and threaten more tariffs. Tariffs that only is going to really hurt Americans and American consumers and American farmers and people that try to produce in this country that, those few exports that we actually export to China, like soy, whereas now China is going to get these resources that normally they would get from us from other places. So yeah, our tariffs don't mean shit to them. And even if it did, you probably get the sense that the communist government doesn't really care as much about their people as a supposed capitalist country, especially the shining city on the hill, should be caring about their own people, and that give a passing thought to what would happen to our farmers, our consumers, over the tariffs on another country, making it harder for them to sell their stuff and even harder to buy stuff from these places. But whatever, that doesn't matter to Mr. Flaily Hands. But when I go back to saying that, it'd be nice, it's nice to knowing that some of these people at least attempt to have some modicum of personal self-respect. Apparently others do not. Because while all this was happening yesterday, while he was advocating foreign governments to please come and save him and investigate his political rivals, another little interesting thing was happening. State Department and the IG sent a packet of information to the Congress. And when I first heard about this, and even from that moment to now, I don't quite get what this information was supposed to be, but it was something that the House Intelligence Committee had to go and go into a sealed room and have to look at this stuff. And it turns out it was a packet of bullshit. It was a packet of bullshit sent to the State Department by Rudy Giuliani. And what I mean about bullshit, and I'm not talking about just information from their conspiracy theories from Ukraine about the Bidens or CrowdStrike or whatever the hell they were going to do. It means that the actual physical packets was falsified to save the White House. That some people were suggesting that some of this information was held in envelopes and stationery that you can find on Trump property. And Rudy Giuliani was the messenger of this. So as part of the sort of structure portion of this rant, let's dig into this. This is from Politicus USA. Rudy Giuliani admits to putting fake White House logos on non-government documents. Rudy Giuliani admits that he put fake White House logos on his Ukraine conspiracy theory documents to try and pass them off as real. Josh Rogan of CNN tweets, by the way, Rudy is admitting to manufacturing White House logos and sticking them on non-White House documents and pushing the real government to act on them. And he shows on this article, apparently the hand-drawn logo done by Giuliani or someone close to him. There's a picture of it, Walter Schwab, S-A-A-U-B. His tweet shows the actual envelope that was being passed to the Congress as having the real information in. I actually saw this live. The congressman was talking with Chuck Todd, and he showed him the envelope, and it's just like this. First of all, it was addressed to Secretary Pompeo, and it had this beautiful calligraphy, like handwritten naming, and on the top it has the the fake, this is from the White House. And Walter Schwab says to the picture, thanks. I asked because it doesn't look photoshopped to me. It looks hand-drawn, which is insane. It'll be interesting to see if he specifically says he created the fake logo, compare the Pompeo package to the actual White House envelope, and they show compare and contrast between the two envelopes and what the White House logo specifically says. Is this just a no-nonsense, black stationery colored, the White House, Washington, D.C., blah, 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 zip code. And the top one, if you can find the article, if you can find this thing, it just says, the White House, this is official in red. Rudy Giuliani falsified documents to try to get the State Department to investigate his Russian conspiracy theory against Joe Biden. This is a whole new level of crazy. Giuliani was hell-bent on getting the State Department to investigate Biden. Instead of investigating Biden, the State Department turned the documents over to the IG, who then turned them over to the Congress, thus providing more evidence for impeachable Ukraine conspiracy. The document that Giuliani compiled has been described as an amateurist right-wing conspiracy theory. The fact that the president and his lawyer would run with this half-baked scheme is a sign that they could find nothing on Biden, and there is no law that they won't break to win the 2020 election. On the same night that America finds out that Mike Pence may have also committed an impeachable offense, the country learns that the president's lawyer spent his free time faking White House logos for his conspiracy theory documents. It is only 9 since the impeachable investigation was announced, and Team Trump is a pile of rubble. That was pretty much the article. So, when you read this, when you watch this stuff, and then you compare and contrast what you see of Rudy Giuliani whenever he goes on camera to try to defend this or try to declare himself a hero, that he should be considered a winner role. He should be considered a hero. People will say he's a hero for bringing this to light. Yeah, he's bringing out bullshit. It's interesting. The special envoy to Ukraine, Kurt Wagner, he resigned, like at the start of this investigation. Conspiracy starts coming into light, and he's like, I'm out. Yesterday, he also testified, and pretty much told him and warned Giuliani that the information he was getting from Ukraine that was feeding into his conspiracy theories are not reliable, that they were debunked, that this was misinformation and disinformation for just the purposes of stroking his own ego and to make it beneficial for the United States to continue to help aid them. We were going to aid them anyway. Money was allotted from the Congress and the State Department, and our president was holding it back. Now, I already went over this. He held it back for days before he had his conversation with Zelensky. We now find out, it's now more or less confirmed, that Zelensky wasn't going to get a call from Trump until he understood that the topic of the conversation was going to be about the Bidens. Now, I don't know if you noticed this as much as I noticed this, because did you find it funny that the word du jour that Trump has been talking about lately is corruption? I mean, that is his new buzzword. That for the conversation with, the actual transcript conversation with Zelensky, but pretty much when he talks about it on talks in front of the camera with the news people, and it's all about corruption. There is this corruption. There's that corruption. I was talking to Zelensky, largely congratulatory, largely about corruption. Yeah, you look at first of all, this corruption, it's funny, it's just a vague term. They don't really say what corruption. In fact, they don't really go into what they're talking about, what Joe or Hunter Biden was doing that was so corrupt. It's just corruption, vague term, waving hands, corruption. Okay, what corruption? What was it? I mean, here's the thing. We on the other side of the thought process here, on the other side of the aisle, we like specifics. We like facts. We like to know, oh, this is corruption. Well, what was the corruption? Can you give us times, dates? What was the event? What was the thing that caused this corruption? What was the corruption per se? What did this corruption affect? We get none of that. We just said the word corruption. Would that really fly in any of the presidential administration? If Barack Obama decided that he's going to have a foreign power investigate his political rival, and when asked, why are you talking to him about that? Oh, we were just talking about corruption. Okay, and none of y'all who defend Trump, you would not stand for that. You would be embarrassed if a fellow Republican was doing anything of the kind. You wouldn't be standing up lockstep in defense. Which people are doing now. Senator Ron Johnson is condoning Trump going and asking China to investigate. In his terms, we got to find out what happened in 2016. Really? Really? You're not worried about 2016, are you? That this conspiracy theory, this debunked conspiracy theory, that the Ukraine was meddling in our elections to assist Hillary Clinton and the DNC, and the DNC self-hacked itself so they can blame it on Russia. Okay? And for those people who just talk about the Russian interference and the meddling, and you're just like, there was nothing, that was a joke, nothing really happened with that. The thing that Trump was accused of doing in 2016, he's doing right in front of your goddamn faces now. And you're condoning it, and you're just waving your hand of it. You're waving it away? Really? I mean, on those at the political level, in holding political office, you can maybe understand it because these people are so cravenly cowardly to their own constituents. They're fearful of angering the Trump base that they will sacrifice and debase themselves to following this lunacy to defend their president. But people not in politics do not have their livelihoods attached to this man because they might be fearful of his fan base. Those who are his fan base, or those who maybe not his fan base but still give him a strange benefit of the doubt for some reason. Why? Why? What's the benefit? I asked this in the last one, for all the tariffs and all the stuff that embarrasses this country from his behavior and those who just go along with it. Why? I mean, this is a type of facepalm moment for this country. That we have somebody who is going down. I don't care if impeachment doesn't work. I don't care if it gets killed in the Senate. It's still the right thing to do. It's an Article 1 matter for the Congress. When they see something, they have to investigate it. To do so would be a dereliction of their duty and their oath of office. But for someone who is supposed to be so innocent and so pure that none of this was happening, that this is a hoax, he acts as guilty as sin, and he's flailing his hands. He gets pissed at reporters are asking a simple question. I mean, how many of you saw that meltdown? Not only in the Oval Office, but in the press conference with the Finnish president? I feel sorry for that guy. You know, the any world leader that comes, there used to be an honor to come and sit in the Oval Office with our presidents. As it would be an honor for our presidents to go and sit in their rooms of state. But he just sits there while Trump goes nuclear on questions from the press, talking about fake news. And oh, by the way, we're going to add corruption, corrupt news now, because that's a new buzzword that we want everyone to remember. Oh, they're all corrupt. They're all corrupt. Patron Trump said so. And him losing his shit over Jeff Mason's question on what did he want Zelensky to do. First of all, he never answered the question. He just, bashed the fake news. He demanded that he ask a question to the Finnish president. And, your fake news, your corrupt news. And then when he does ask the question to the Finnish president, he interrupts the question to the Finnish president. Are you embarrassed for your country yet? I would be embarrassed if Bill Clinton acted like this during his impeachment. If he was flailing his hands, if he was begging our countries, not even our country's main allies. Have you also noticed that? I'll get into that. But if Bill Clinton called up England or France or Germany to investigate, these allegations of him on Whitewater or how they found out about Monica Lewinsky and all this this is fucking nonsense. But Trump, on the other hand, save me, foreign power. I can't possibly use my own resources here. I'm just going to. The only thing I'll use my own resources as president is to try to influence you to do what I want. Now that's presidents are supposed to be able to do that, and this is why it's supposed to be fine. That's why people are trying to give him a pass and saying there's no quid pro quo, Clarice. However, you're not supposed to use your influence to try to investigate a political rival using foreign powers. And this activity is not, limited to Ukraine anymore. Now that he's begging China to do it, we find out that his government, his underlings, went to Italy to try to assist in digging up dirt on Hillary's emails, because Lord knows Hillary's emails is the prime thing we have to worry about in 2019. Well, yeah, we went to there. He asked the Australians the Australian president to help vilify the Mueller report to try to find out its origins. Yeah, the origins is George Papadopoulos getting drunk and letting the cat out of the bag that they were being assisted by Russia. But, let's get Australia in on that. And it's not, and like I said, this is Trump and his underlings. Attorney General Barr is becoming quite a little toady. He's like Roy Cohn with less drama and less character. He's a pudgy Roy Cohn. But he wants to get foreign powers to inquire and investigate the CIA and FBI. Our own intelligence community, our president and his people are trying to get foreign powers to investigate. Really? This is maddening. This is not normal. He will tell people, one of his excuses, that everybody does it, so don't get mad at me, I'm just doing what everyone else does. No one does this shit. No one. It gets to be the argument of going back to the impeachment inquiry, and why are we doing it? Why should we not do it? Will it matter? Will it not matter? I posted, what it means to impeach. And I've already voiced my own opinion on it a number of times. That I don't know if it's politically tactful. If it's in the long run, it would be good or bad for my side of the aisle's politics. That it's more than likely that if it happens to pass the House, it will die in the Senate. The thing is, at this point, it is the right thing to do. It is a dereliction of duty not to do it. Too many things has happened in the past 2+ years that we had been forced to tolerate. First, because we didn't have the majority in the House, and we just had to take it. But once we had the majority in the House, then we had the power of the subpoena, and we power to convene congressional committee meetings and testimonies. And still they say, fuck you to subpoenas, fuck you to contempts. They laugh in the face of checks and balances, of oversight. And as I said last time, I'm glad that my Congress, or my Democrats, are like growing teeth, fangs, and claws and balls to go and pull these people up. Because a lot of these testimonies have been fucking disgraceful. Corey Lewandowski, who just pretty much didn't answer a single goddamn question because of a privilege that was not exerted, so therefore that privilege does not exist. But somehow we're supposed to just continue to play this game like Jeff Sessions did, is that, well, I can't talk about that because of privilege. Oh, really? Did that privilege get exerted? No. So there is no privilege. Yes, there is. This mind-bending reality where you just, what was this, a mental time machine? I'm exerting a privilege that was not exerted by the White House, but I'm still going to operate like they exerted it. Things are supposed to matter. Things are supposed to, like, when someone says something like exerting their executive privilege, it should be in writing that's there, that it's ironclad. Oh, you put executive privilege, we can try to ask, but we know we can't go there because they're not going to respond. But when you don't actually have it there, and people are just running with this as if there is, that's bullshit, and that's contempt. Mike Pompeo doesn't want to testify before Congress. For someone who went after Hillary Clinton and demanded that she appears so that they can, like, get ready to have her and just slice her all up when she just withstood all of it for 11 hours. Mikey can't bring himself to do it, and he's not going to tolerate the Congress intimidating him or his people. Fred Wagner, the envoy, he wanted to testify. He went right in. Majority of the conversation was classified, but there was some gist that was gleaned out. One being that he believed that the withholding of the money wasn't necessarily about the Bidens. That's what he thought, but just over the vague notion of Ukrainian corruption that he wanted to withhold back. I have my own opinions on that, but he did say that all of Giuliani's activities that was going on in Ukraine, he tried to warn him about because they were just giving him a bill of goods, a load of crap. But the thing is that Giuliani doesn't care that what he's getting is true or not. This is just stuff to get into the media, to confuse the issues. I mean, the Ukrainian prosecutor general said there was no charges on the Bidens, that there was nothing to hold them on, he didn't do anything wrong. The ex-president of Ukraine also came out recently and said that the Bidens didn't do anything wrong, there was no charges against him, there wasn't anything illegal. How many people does it take And the thing is, I believe, I, I generally believe that everyone who hears this stuff doesn't believe that the Bidens were doing anything. I think in the general sense, those who like pick up this talking point is just doing it out of politics. You know, is what people accuse those who are in favor of impeachment. Oh, that's all about politics. The thing about that is that I get tired of the argument of these people who are, are are so against the impeachment inquiry. They're just looking into it, the investigation of it. Is that you're trying to nullify everyone's votes? You're trying to nullify everyone's votes. Everyone voted for him to go in, and you're just trying to take that away. No, no. That type of argument tries to tell me that a president can do wrong in office, but you can't remove him. That you're supposed to just take it. You're supposed to take it to the next election point. So a president can do wrong. A president can violate the law in various ways to bring itself to the opinion of high crimes and misdemeanors. But since he's part of your party, you're going to run with this this I don't even know what the hell to call it. This pity party. This, oh, you're nullifying everyone's votes. You're just taking away their president. A guy does wrong, and you investigate it, and it proves that he does wrong. You aren't supposed to act. Were you all crying when you were trying to impeach Bill Clinton? Were you worrying about nullifying the vote at that point? I mean, your political fathers and uncles that came before you during the Nixon administration, I'm sure they started out with that frame of mind when Watergate became something that was getting us into impeachment territory, when he did a Saturday Night Massacre, and when the tape got edited, that just came out with it. But then suddenly, Goldwater and a few others at the final end was like, you know what, it's just time to be adults. The Democrats are now gaining into control. They're gonna get enough votes, and even if they get impeachment or not, it's going to be too much of a scandal for the Republican Party to control. So we have to have a conversation with Nixon, and they did, and then Nixon resigned before we gotten too deep into impeachment. I don't know what people's livelihoods are that support Trump, that have not yet had this conversation with him, that maybe he had enough fun, but it's time to step aside. And with Trump, it seems like we have somebody who will take everyone down with him. Not only that, he retweets that little Civil War bullshit from that goofy pastor. Of course, people are trying to again, wave that away. First of all, that Trump just retweeted it. He didn't say it. Why the fuck he retweeted it, but we'll leave that alone. But what the pastor is saying is that he wasn't advocating for civil war. He was just suggesting that there would be a civil war-like fracture in our government and our people if he happened to be impeached. We got partisan camps back and forth. We have this all or nothing bullshit that Republicans and Democrats do. We're already at that point. It's supposed to give you pause to doing what's right. So what? Should we not have an election? Because if Trump happens to leave office, his people might get upset. Should he remain there, and we just should have a dictatorship because of what, fear? People talk about how the Trumps are going to be this dynastic presidential line, that his kids are going to continue being president, and he'll just sit there like in the Oval Office, getting his considerably older and older, but he'll be the one that's actually in power. Like Putin and Medvedev. When Medvedev became president of Russia, and Putin changed job titles so he can still remain in control, but Medvedev would be the official face. That lasted, did it? But we're supposed to not advocate to doing what's right out of fear. Remember when this used to be the United States? Clearly, vaguely remember this being the United States of America. And this type of thing did not happen here. We're going to be fearful to do what's right, even if what's right doesn't work. Even if what is right ultimately fails, you still should do it. You should still be brave to do it. Oh, but no, because we can't Republicans, outwardly support this because we might offend, the Trump base, and they might not get reelected again. Let me give you a little secret of 2016 and why there is really a strong Trump base. When Trump was in the single digits, and there are 16 Republicans, in line running for president. But one of the things I noticed that these voters were screaming was that people developed some balls. I hate to be grotesque about this, but still. They wanted people to fight. Not kowtow, not pussyfoot around, but they wanted to fight. People who were supposedly like frontliners in this, like the Ted Cruzes and the Jeb Bushes, they were expecting, the political establishment of the Republican Party to take the joke like Trump and end him with strong policy and refuting every stupid, insane bullshit he did. But instead, they were worried upon his popularity. He was worried about offending the people that would be voting for him. You would see like commentators on various news sites from Fox News on down, like talking about how Ted Cruz is hugging Trump because once Trump goes down, he wants to garner his supporters. His supporters only grew because people were cowards in facing him. I mean, he insults these people. When Ben Carson in Iowa was actually going ahead of Trump went out on camera on the rally stage, and he goes, "How stupid are the people of Iowa?" And he does his little goofy face. He insults you, and you still walk right into it. And it is fault of the media establishment too, that gave so much time to Trump that they didn't give enough time to everybody else. Again, I brought this up in an earlier video. I don't even think it's on one of the ones on YouTube, where Chris Matthews on Hardball had this whole segment where he was talking about Trump. And this whole segment, and I mean from commercial into the segment to the end of the segment to the next commercial, all of it, the camera was focused on Trump's plane on the tarmac. And you hear Chris Matthews talking in the background about whatever issue was going on with Trump at the time. And it was like right before like one of these Republican debates. But he had the camera, he had the video of Trump's plane doing nothing. There's no cars and nothing. Just genuflect and watch this plane as if it was the Pope's plane landing in D.C. And back in the day, what? Why? Do you do this for anybody else? No. I think Trump used his media influences that he had to make sure he had the most airtime and gassed it out of everybody else. I would never I won't say never, but I've never had an inkling of voting Republican. But I can tell you, in terms of being presidential, I'll take Jeb Bush. I would have taken Jeb Bush. I would have taken Ted Cruz. I would not like Ted Cruz, but I won't imagine Ted Cruz does what Trump does on Twitter or in front of a camera. How disrespectful he is to other human beings who are not Trump or not the beautiful Trump. The thing with Tiffany Trump is still kind of mind-boggling, but be that as it may. Side tangents and rants. It's like that. And again, you run into these things where Trump will do this stuff that draws the attention, that draws your ire, and while your ire is drawn out and the media's ire is drawn out, and people are having panels on the nonsense that he's talking about, then underneath things pass from the headlines, which should be the headlines. As a byproduct of our arms deal with Saudi Arabia, he worries about corruption, but he's only worrying about corruption in Ukraine. Get to that moment. Due to our arms deal in Saudi Arabia, and what we give them, we get to take the dubious credit of being the one to supply Saudi Arabia a bomb that was used on a busload of 40 Yemeni children. We're the suppliers of that. It's not just direct, overt actions that causes people who feel they're being held down to resort to terrorism. It can be indirect acts. If you make the calculation in your mind that bus would not have blown up and 40 children would not have died had it not been the United States supplying that weapon to the Saudis. Could that bus been attacked by any other means, by Saudi-made means? Sure, of course. You can take that rationality, you can take the nuance, yeah. Would it be an eventuality? Maybe. If that was actually the target, Lord knows things, get misfired. We had the innocent people in Afghanistan get killed off by a drone recently enough that they thought they were aiming for a terrorist cell, but it turns out they were just aiming at some farmers. Then again, we don't hear that in the headlines, do we? Because we're too busy worrying about wavy hands being either a racist asshole or asking other countries to save him and investigate his enemies. So if someone else becomes a prominent front runner in the Democratic candidacy for president, is Trump going to ask more countries to come in and try to investigate them too? Since evidently he can't use the FBI or CIA because he's investigating them too. Is that going to be another eventuality? I don't know, people. This is it's like rapid fire doing all these things now. These videos. This is basically my third if my one video didn't corrupt in a space of a week. But all this is getting we're getting sped up a bit. Impeachment is actually progressing at a fairly fast clip. Kevin McCarthy came out, who was the Republican leader in the Congress, and suggested that they should halt impeachment proceedings and demand that the Congress not getting information or any documents, or at least he's toting the White House line that they should not ask for any documents. They're not going to get any documents from the White House until they do a preliminary vote on impeachment. So when it's in the House, impeachment is the investigation point. If you want to make an analogy towards a court case, this is the grand jury phase where you're presenting the evidence and then they vote on whether or not to put out the indictments. The Senate side is where the trial is, the court case is. So what you glean from that is that Kevin McCarthy wants the Congress to do the vote for impeachment before all the evidence is presented. All the evidence that should be brought to the Congress, all the documents that was asked for the State Department and from the White House. You can't have any of that until we do a vote. So when you do the vote, you bypass all that to go directly to the Senate. So that's a clever end run around the responsibilities of the Congress to gather as much information as they can to make their case. And no, that's not going to happen. So what's going to happen is that when they withhold this information, they'll be committing obstruction of justice. It's like Pompeo, which says, I'm not going to testify, you're intimidating me. Well, yeah, Adam Schiff then replies, yeah, okay, well, you don't, then we'll just construe that as obstruction of justice. Rudy Giuliani was going to have having his documents subpoenaed, and he's haying and hawing if he's going to go and comply with this or not comply with this, because he has to go on it. He's going to be the hero. That's what he thinks he is. But no, that's also obstruction of justice too if they withhold it. It's saying for weeks, you have the power of subpoena, use it. You have the power to say someone is in contempt, use it. If they are in contempt, send the cops. Because they're still laughing. They laugh at the concept of the Emoluments Clause. They laugh at the concept of the Hatch Act. They laugh at this impeachment inquiry. They laugh at your authority. The thing is, you have the authority. My fellow Americans who happen to be Democrat, who happen to be in the Congress, you have the authority. Exert it. Do the right thing. Even in the long run, that might damage you. It's better to go down in flames than to go down with a whisper and a whimper. Everything is perception. And right now, the narrative is still on the side of those who are going for the impeachment inquiry. You have plain as day evidence in that transcript that he stupidly presented as if that was going to exonerate him. A transcript that he says it's word for word, but then his own people in the White House says, no, that's just an abbreviated summary. It's just a readout. That's not everything. And go back to what I was going to say. Now, why is it that Trump doesn't go through allied channels to do his little foreign investigations of his enemies? Why does he go to Ukraine? Why does he go to China, who he has a trade dispute with? He thinks he has leverage. He'll do what he wants. He can't go to England and ask them to investigate because they'll say no. Can't go to France? No, they'll say no. Germany? Merkel? No, she'll say no. So he will compel the Ukraine to do it because he holds their foreign aid, their military and financial aid that they need to keep their country stable. He'll use that so that he can get them to investigate and trump up nonsense on the Bidens, as Rudy Giuliani tried doing with his falsified records, his falsified stationery. This is a guy you support, right? This is totally kosher with you. This is great, right? Just checking. Just checking. Because I know, Lord knows, we can't ask anyone's motivation. You know, why do you still support him? Oh, no, that's not your business. Of course. And the irony is that, like any person who is innocent, who bravely accepts a challenge and investigations, yet bring it on because I'm innocent, he certainly was able to throw Mike Pence in front of the bus, didn't he? You know, we better ask Mike Pence because he talked to Ukraine too. Mike Pence is trying to distance himself from that. He's not going to get very far. There's a lot of things. Again, people assume that everyone has short-term memory, and that people don't pay attention to how people operate. Because whereas Donald Trump doesn't give a shit what information is passed through his limited mind, that advisors try to tell him, but he doesn't listen to advisors. Advisors are supposed to listen to him. Mike Pence actually is meticulous. And if he wasn't in on the call, his people were. And they certainly briefed him the day later. They'll claim that they didn't, but they did, like any other time. They'll claim that Mike Pence will have this information of the transcript because he himself was going to meet with Zelensky, and he did. So this information that came from the transcript, he had in his own dossier of information in order to explain, in order to have his conversations with Zelensky, because at the time he was supposed to be the one to explain to him why America was withholding its support of Ukraine because of the vague notion of corruption. He claims that he never heard of that. He never didn't see any of that. He's lying. He's lying for the basis of it's kind of against how he works. He's one of these people who, you know, he's what's left of what was the adults in the room that actually takes information and reads it. But now he's claiming that he didn't. Okay. Trump will drag him down too, and Pence being such a lightweight sycophant of Trump, so much so that when in a meeting, Trump takes a drink of water, or he takes a bottle of water that's on the table, and he puts it on the floor, Pence immediately takes his own bottle of water and puts it on the floor. Because Daddy Trump did that. So I'm going to be like Daddy Trump. This is what you're supporting, for those of you who support. So Pence is also in trouble in this. Trump is obviously out front and bloviating and so neon that people will pay attention to him, but Pence is also in trouble in this. So here's the far-fetched theory of this impeachment. If somehow miraculously 2/3 of the Senate vote to impeach, meaning a good chunk of the Republicans side with all the Democrats to impeach, and Jeff Flake claimed that there was already a secret vote that 35 of the Republicans would vote to impeach him. So, you know, take that for a grain of salt. But if somehow Trump gets impeached and removed, and this same issue, the same stuff, lands on Pence, and Pence gets impeached and removed, the next one in line is the Speaker of the House. It's Nancy Pelosi. So the far-fetched theory is that Trump goes down, Pence goes down, President Pelosi, at least until the election. That is kind of poetic justice. I'll say. I don't know how much of the Republicans will allow that to happen. As has been reported in the last few weeks, Trump actually has got 3 Republican rivals who also want to, who are challenging him. Bill Weld, Joe Walsh, and Mark Sanford. Now, in normal times, when a president of the incumbent party is going back and forth to re-election, the states that are running primaries, they close up with their party, right? Because there are no other challengers. However, Trump has 3 challengers on the Republican Party. And the Republican Party, for whatever reason, is closing ranks with Trump and denying them a primary vote. They just won't be involved. This is all Trump or nothing. These were options for Republicans to have an alternative. But the party is screwing you over, Republicans who actually want to have a choice. You know, these 3 guys are various shades of conservatism. You know, Bill Weld was a little bit more moderate. Joe Walsh was a fanatic of the Tea Party, and Mark Sanford, well, Mark Sanford's Mark Sanford. You know, so family values guy that took a trip on the Appalachian Trail and ended up in Argentina. But be that as it may. But they're denying you, Republicans, of having a choice, of having to look at another alternative. You know, maybe that type of pressure would maybe, I mean, most likely not, but maybe push Trump to trip up his game a little bit so that he can deal with the fact that he has rivals in his own party. You know, to get you back. All he's doing is catering only to his base. A base that he himself doesn't give a shit about. But as long as they're being blindly loyal to him, and all the Republicans are so scared of pissing them off, that they're just not going to do anything. And so they close up these primaries, and you don't get to have a choice. You don't get to have a choice. It's either you're a dictator or nothing. If your dictator doesn't win, civil war. And we're all supposed to be fearful of. Guys, come on. Sure, I'm missing things. But, you know, if I'm missing something, I'll just mention it in the next video. You know, it's always this plea that I try to end with. It's just that we're supposed to be better than this. Trump, I've described this a few times, especially during this article that I read, upon how he wanted the border to have a moat built along the border filled with snakes and crocodiles. And if migrants come by, shoot them in the leg. Trump, if that's all true, then Trump is a childish, cruel cartoon. The things he wants is something a cartoon villain would want. What I guess Mike Myers had the trademark on the sharks with the freaking laser beams on their freaking heads, so he couldn't have that? Maybe he can negotiate for that? Maybe rocket launchers on crocodiles? I don't know. But, you know, we all try to make the benefit of the doubt that people are smarter than this, are more adult than this, that they give a shit about what's going on with their country. that they would not want this silliness to represent them. I mean, is it just the partisanship? Just to make sure you get one over on the libs, so you get someone who is too rich to be special needs, to be representing you, embarrasses us on the world stage, that makes the world look at us and go, you know what, we used to consider you the world power that we're going to turn to, but now we're not going to turn to you anymore. We're isolating ourselves because of him. If you think it's all right that the President of the United States can have foreign powers investigate his rivals, is this a new concept? Or were you always advocating for that? I don't think you were. I don't think if there was any other person in here that you would tolerate that, Democrat or Republican. Because to tolerate that not only says something upon the person that you're supporting, it's saying something about you. And the American values that we are supposed to venerate and tout, how we're supposed to be so much better than everybody else at, USA number one. We're so far from number one now. It's not even funny. It's people waking up to the fact that they get lied to their face. And I understand that in politics that is one of those things that happens, but not this overt, not this direct. He's going to bring back the coal industry. Oh yeah, well, no, that didn't happen. He's going to bring back the steel industry. No, that did not happen. They'll tout, warehouses and factories that was saved, and then a month later they're gone. But Bill's, when brought up, Bill said, "No one's talking about that. No one cares about that." He lies to your face, treats you as simpletons, tells you a story that is so far-fetched and is easily fact-checked, but he just assumes that you're never going to fact-check it, that you don't care about facts. We're all Americans. All of us. Conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, independent, moderate, partisan, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Taoist. You're born here or you were naturalized here. You're all able to voice your opinions because of the laws that we have in the land. He opined that because the fake news is so fake and it's always against him, that he should have his own state-run news. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Same what a dictator would want. A dictator would want to have a news program, a news media, to be the only one in the country, so that the only news that the people, the little serfs that serve him, will get is from him. How many of the Baghdad Bobs, the Sean Hannitys, the Tucker Carlsons, Laura Ingrams, Judge Purio, Sebastian Gorka, all these people who are either pundits, talking heads, or Trump allies would just love to give you the real truth about the deep state, about your life and how the Savior has saved you. We all have pictures of Trump in our house now that, every time we wake up we have to, pledge allegiance to, because Big Brother's watching. But Big Brother would have to be from a foreign power because he doesn't trust his own intel community. Alright, in summation of my ranting ramblings of my ranting nuts. It's just another day, just Friday, and we spent all week with this. We're probably going to spend all week next week with this as he continues to decline, to the detriment of the United States, where we see our politicians who are so craven that they need to support him over the expense of their own pride and their own values. Every time Lindsey Graham tweets, and he's been tweeting a lot because he has to defend his golfing buddy, people in his responses reply to him with his own words on Trump before he became his golfing buddy, or primarily before John McCain died. He's a chief person that debases himself. And you see these Republicans who will come up and they'll defend him, and then they haven't even read the whistleblower complaint. They haven't even read the transcript. They're just getting snippets of it on the media when they themselves are supposed to read this thing when it's presented to them. But no quid pro quo. I didn't see anything. I didn't read anything, so I didn't see anything. See, it's not just Trump. Getting rid of Trump, if he's somehow impeached, that doesn't make everything better. What is left behind? All these tainted people who sacrificed their own constituents' well-being, really, in order to defend him. All these people that do their events at Trump property so Trump can still make money in the White House. All those defenders who will defend him over this nonsense, will lie to you over this nonsense. If you want Trumpism to end, they have to go too. They have to be voted out. They have to be investigated too. Those who done wrongdoing. Don't get that twisted that I'm saying that investigate everybody. No. Those who knowingly do wrong things to support this man. Those who just screw up and just defend him and all that, you see through the bullshit, you can vote them out. That's fine. But a number of these people are going above and beyond to continue his to try to control his narrative and suppress the truth. That needs to stop, and that needs to be seriously looked at. Yeah. And there's one more thing on that. It's just the it was mentioned before, and I kind of brought it up. I'll bring it up again that when Bill Clinton was impeached and just censured by the Senate, people said, "Well, that was good for Clinton. That made Clinton look good." Yeah, for the moment. Yeah, he beat the impeachment. Yeah. What happened after that? What happened in the next election? Bush happened. Republican control happened. Clinton was done. He already has a second term. There was not much left he was going to do. After the impeachment, he was essentially a lame duck. There's not much he needed to do left as president. So if you think that if Trump survives impeachment, he's just going to take a victory lap, which he will. If that means that that's going to translate, take the election of 2000 to account then. Because a lot of things happened and screwed up. One of the things is that Al Gore didn't utilize Clinton because he was so fearful of him being so toxic. As I said before, presidential candidates shouldn't bring up the impeachment as much. If someone asks about impeachment, answer the question, fine. support it and that it's a Congress inquiry to do so, fine. But presidential candidates, from Joe Biden down to Williamson with her "we will beat Trump with love" nonsense, any one of these candidates, when it's presented with that question, should say, you know what, yeah, I agree with the Congress needing to go into impeachment inquiry, but I don't want him impeached. I want to beat him. I want to beat him in the election. Without a doubt. I want to present my policies, which differ from him. I want to present my temperament, which is different from him, to reassure you that you're not going to see me tweeting every single day at 4 a.m. to 11 a.m. because I'm going to be doing my job. Or I'm going to be sleeping, because that's what you should be doing at 4 a.m. anyway. So promise not to golf, because clearly, you know, Trump whined about Obama's golfing during the campaign, and now he spent in 2 years more time on the golf course than Obama did in 8 years. At the taxpayers' payment, by the way. So, good for you for allowing him to do 18 holes. Alright, guys. I think I've rambled enough for 1 hour and 11 minutes. I will see you the next time. As the ranter rants, because his urge to rant is rising. And this guy gives me just an abundant material to rant about. See you later.